There are 4 stages of a woman's exit. First, she loses the feeling. Then she loses the respect. Then she hides the phone. And finally, she takes the money. You're noticing a subtle change. The attitude is colder, the arguments are more frequent, and she's suddenly very curious about your bank balances and the title to your car. You're witnessing the resource liquidation phase. You're sitting there thinking that maybe a nice dinner or shopping trip will fix her mood. But behavioral observations show that when a woman has already decided to replace you, she starts viewing your money as hazard pay for the time she spent with you. You're the victim of financial guerrilla warfare. While you're out there working overtime to provide, she is currently calculating how much of your sweat and blood she can carry away in a divorce or a breakup. You're witnessing a psychological asset strip. She didn't just get moody, she decided that your utility has expired and she's preparing to cash out her chips before she leaves the table. You're the victim of the provider trap. You think you're being a good, trusting partner, but you're actually funding a woman who's looking at your savings account as her new life fund. Today, we are locking the vault. I'm going to show you why protecting your bread is the only way to protect your future. If you don't watch this until the final second, you're choosing to be the man who ends up sleeping on a friend's couch while she enjoys the house your labor built. The most brutal realization you'll ever have is that a woman who doesn't respect your person will have absolutely no problem disrespecting your pocket. Men, this channel is more than content. It's a brotherhood that exists for those who refuse to be controlled, distracted, or broken. My ex told me men today are too weak, too distracted, and too controlled to ever unite. I didn't argue. I decided to prove her wrong. Every man who subscribes is proof that discipline, self-respect, and strength still exist. If you stand for truth, self-control, and knowing your value as a real man, if you're here to sharpen your mindset and live with standards, subscribe and stay. Like this video and make your presence known in the comments. Let's see who's serious and is ready to prove doubters wrong, because after this video, you'll be reborn as a new man who has discovered himself and is ready to take back his manhood. Make sure to subscribe and stay ahead, because we're just getting started. We have to look at the architecture of asset extraction. You see, brothers, a woman who is planning an exit doesn't do it overnight. She goes through a process of emotional devaluation. In her mind, because she doesn't love you anymore, she feels she has suffered by being with you. This creates a psychological justification to take as much as possible. You're the victim of the compensation fallacy. Behavioral patterns show that when the attitude changes, when she stops being soft, stops being helpful, and starts being entitled, she's mentally prepping the bill. She thinks you owe her for her time. You're being economically sabotaged by a person you still think is on your team. You're witnessing the transfer of wealth. She is no longer a partner. She is a creditor looking to collect on a debt you never signed for. This leads us to the secret savings protocol. Notice if she starts asking for extra for things she can't explain. Notice if she suddenly wants her own private account while still using yours for everything. You're the victim of financial infidelity. Behavioral observations suggest that women often build a war chest before they leave. They use your money to pay for the lawyer, the new apartment, or the rebound trip with the new guy. You're being used as a venture capitalist for her new life without you. You think you're being generous, but she's recording it as stupidity. She knows that as long as you keep her in the "I'm just stressed" phase, you'll keep the top running. You're being systematically drained of the very resources you'll need to rebuild your life once the betrayal is complete. I want to tell you about a man named Derek. Derek was a foreman. A man who worked 12-hour days in the sun to make sure his wife, Chloe, and their kids had the best of everything. He noticed Chloe's attitude turned ice cold about 6 months before the end. She was always picking fights, calling him unrefined, and spending hours on her phone. Derek, being a protector, thought the answer was to give her more security. He put her name on the title of his vintage truck. He gave her the password to his retirement fund, and he even opened a joint credit card with a high limit to make her happy. Derek was the loser in this story because he tried to pay for peace. He didn't realize that for a woman who has lost respect, your money is just vulture's meat. While Derek was on the job site, Chloe was using that joint card to buy expensive clothes for dates with a guy she met online. She was quietly transferring small amounts from the retirement fund into a hidden account. When Derek finally caught her, he thought he could just divorce her and move on. But because he had protected her and trusted her with his assets, she walked away with 60% of his worth, the truck he loved, and he was left with the credit card debt she racked up while cheating. Derek was the victim of the trust tax. He lost 20 years of hard work because he didn't realize that an attitude shift is a signal to close the vault. He ended up back in a studio apartment at age 45, starting from zero, while Chloe used his money to fund her new beginning. He failed because he didn't understand that once the heart closes, the hand starts reaching for the wallet. You have to recognize the entitlement shift. When a woman's attitude turns sour, she stops saying thank you and starts saying, "Is that all?" You are the victim of utility inflation. She will take the luxury you provide and act like it's the bare minimum. Behavioral observations show that this is a defense mechanism. She has to make your provision seem worthless so she doesn't feel like a thief when she takes it. You are being moralized out of your wealth. She will tell her friends that you controlled her with money as if she's spending it. You're witnessing the social assassination of the provider. She is painting you as a financial abuser to justify her financial extraction. The next behavioral observation is the legal preparation phase. If she starts asking about the fine print of your life insurance, the house deed, the tax returns, she isn't taking an interest in the family business. She is doing due diligence for her legal team. You are the victim of strategic intelligence gathering. Men often miss this because they think, oh, she's finally becoming responsible. No, she is mapping the battlefield. Behavioral patterns suggest that a woman who is attitude cold but finance curious is a woman who is ready to strike. You are being digitally and legally exposed by the woman who has the keys to your house but no loyalty in her soul. The loser's loop is the man who thinks common sense will save him in court. You think, I worked for it, so I'll keep it. But the system isn't built for common sense. It's built for the paper trail. You are the victim of the fair play illusion. If you don't start moving your assets, separating your accounts, and documenting her resource abuse the moment the attitude changes, you are handing her the sword she will use to cut your throat. You are being psychologically baited into a false sense of security. You have to realize that protecting your money isn't being mean. It's preserving your survival. If you are still operating on shared trust while she is operating on shared hatred, you are about to receive a financial education that will cost you everything you've ever built. You need to understand the concept of the severance delusion. She isn't just unhappy, she is mentally calculating the value of your sacrifice and deciding that it all belongs to her. You're sitting there thinking about us, while she is sitting there thinking about mine. You're the victim of asset blindness. While you're stressing over why she's being cold and distant, she is currently looking at your savings account as her freedom fund. You are witnessing a psychological liquidation. She didn't accidentally stop contributing to the household energy. She intentionally withdrew her heart so she could justify withdrawing your cash. You are the victim of the provider's blind spot. You think that because you provided the life, you own the life. But behavioral observations show that in the eyes of a woman who has found a new spark, you are just a bank account that she's already started to close. Today, we are finishing the work of the sovereign financial shield. We are looking at the final psychological shifts, the resource reclamation, the strategic separation, and the mastery of the unbroken empire. I'm going to show you why love is a reason to share, but respect is a reason to secure. If you don't watch this until the final second, you're choosing to be the man who pays for the wedding of the woman who just divorced him. The most powerful form of protection a man can have is the ability to walk away from a toxic woman without having to ask her to permission to use his own money. I know men with standards are here. If you value discipline, respect, and strength, subscribe, like, and comment. We have to talk about the psychology of the cold withdrawal. You see, brothers, when a woman's attitude turns ice cold, it is a signal that she has already spent the emotional currency of the relationship. She has no more skin in the game. This is when she becomes dangerous to your resources. You are the victim of the zero-stake betrayal. Because she no longer values you, she no longer values your labor. Behavioral observations suggest that a woman in this state views your money as compensation for her lost time. You are being economically dehumanized. To her, you aren't a man who bled for that money. You are just a source that needs to be tapped one last time before she leaves. You are being psychologically liquidated before the legal papers are even drafted. This leads us to strategic separation. A sovereign man understands that his utility is his power. The moment the respect is gone, the utility must be restricted. You're the victim of the open tap error. Most men keep the joint accounts open and the credit cards active because they are afraid that closing them will confirm the end. This is a behavioral trap. You are being held hostage by your own hope. Behavioral patterns show that the man who secures his assets before the confrontation is the only one who survives the fallout. You are being realigned with reality. You must realize that providing is a reward for loyalty. When the loyalty vanishes, the provision must become a strategic asset that you control exclusively. I want to tell you about a man named Richard. Richard was a software engineer, a man of logic and systems. He noticed his wife Monica began to treat him like a nuisance in his own home. She was always busy, always tired, and her attitude was one of constant, simmering resentment. Richard didn't argue, he didn't beg for her attention. Richard was the winner in this story because he understood the financial perimeter. The moment he felt the cold breeze of her attitude shift, he began a silent audit. He separated his direct deposit. He moved his personal inheritance to an individual account. He documented every unexplained expense Monica made on their joint card. He didn't say a word until his financial shield was 100% locked. When Monica finally sat him down to tell him she needed to find herself, which we all know is code for "I found someone else," she expected a huge payout. She expected to keep the house and the lifestyle while Richard lived in a car. Richard won because he was 3 steps ahead. When her lawyer came knocking, Richard had the evidence of her resource extraction. He had protected his premarital assets. He didn't hate her, he just outplanned her. Monica ended up with exactly what she contributed, which was almost nothing. Richard stayed in his home, kept his retirement, and used his peace to build a new venture. He won because he realized that a woman's attitude is the most accurate economic indicator a man will ever see. He saved his future because he was brave enough to admit that the woman he loved had become a financial predator. You have to recognize the emotional surcharge. When you stay with a woman you don't trust, you aren't just losing money, you are losing time, which is the only asset you can't earn back. You are the victim of opportunity cost. Every dollar you spend trying to fix a woman who is broken is a dollar you aren't spending on your own growth. Behavioral observations show that men who fund a toxic relationship end up aging faster and earning less. You are being biologically and financially stagnated. You have to realize that the cheapest way to deal with a disloyal woman is to let her go now, regardless of the immediate cost. The winner's protocol is about the resource fortress. You have to look at your bank account and realize it represents your life force. It is the hours you spent away from your family, the stress you endured, and the sweat of your brow. You are the prize. You are the sovereign man. You recognize that you have a moral obligation to protect your labor from those who don't respect the laborer. If she wants to be independent in her attitude, let her be independent in her finances. Healing is the realization that financial sovereignty is the foundation of masculine freedom. You are being reforged. You now know that generosity without reciprocity is just subsidized betrayal. You are the master of your own psychology. You don't need to explain why you are protecting your money. Your results are your explanation. You are the sovereign man. You are the master of your own empire. You don't look back at the empty pocket of your past. You look forward at the generational wealth you are going to build now that the leak has been plugged. So here is the smart question for the Brotherhood today. If she had to pay you back for every hour of your life you spent working to provide for her while she was busy disrespecting you in her mind, would she be able to afford the bill, or would she be bankrupt for the rest of her life? I want to hear from the brothers who secured the bag before the storm hit. How did it feel to see the look on her face when she realized she couldn't take you for everything? For the men who are currently paying for their own destruction, be honest. What is holding you back from protecting what is yours? Is it guilt or is it fear? Let's get the engagement up so we can support the brother who is about to lose his life's work because he thinks being nice will win him fairness. Your story might be the legal advice he actually needs to hear. This channel is for men who are done blaming themselves for other people's choices. If that's you, don't leave as a spectator. Subscribe and stay ahead because we're just getting started. Support the message, speak in the comments, and stand with the men who choose clarity over confusion. I'll see you in the next one. Stay sharp, stay cold, stay in your power.